There we go. Right. I'm so sorry. Okay. So the challenge that we have, as always, is we operate in a world that is made up of effectively a lot of conflicting historical beliefs. And the question going through my mind constantly is, why are we always experiencing so much pressure in sales, in marketing, in management? And experience has taught me that when you keep facing the same challenge time and time again, and no matter how much brute force, no matter how much resource you throw at it, it seems to keep coming back. You eventually have to stop blaming the wall for your headache. And you maybe need to start asking yourself better questions. And so the questions going through my mind at the moment are we really looking at the right end of the problem? Do we really spend enough time understanding the problem? Einstein said, given an hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 95% of that time on the problem and only 5% on the solution. Benjamin Franklin, given an hour to cut down a tree, I'd spend 75% of the time sharpening the axe. So again, we need to think, when was the last time we asked ourselves a really damn good question? When was the last time we questioned what we take for granted? Yeah, it stands to reason, doesn't it, that if you make more dials, you speak to more prospects, you're going to close more customers. That's just the way it is. And no amount of telling me what the research shows. Yeah, don't blind me with science. Don't give me experts. I know it's what made me successful. New isn't always better. How often do you hear that kind of resistance and pushback? Well, this is a wake-up call. You're operating in what D. Hock terms a chaotic age. It's where order and chaos are clashing, and there is this incredible growth of friction. And if you can make it over that chasm, if you like, then there is a better place. There's also falling into the chasm. So it's fraught with danger. And what I'm seeing at the moment is so many organizations are fixated on trying to fix the symptom of their problems downstream instead of preventing it from ever happening by looking upstream at its cause. And the evidence of this is the 8,000 MarTech and 1,500 sales enablement platforms that are out there trying to solve these multi-trillion-dollar problems repeatedly. And the crowded, noisy, deafening nature of that marketplace tells us that no one has really fixed it. I mean, in what environment do you consider a 97 to 99% failure rate okay? If health and safety or finance operated where 97 to 99% of their activities failed to deliver the outcome, which is a healthy, safe work environment with no deaths or injuries, yeah, or solvency, how soon would it be before you ended up in jail? So I'd ask you, what are you doing? Is it why? Have you worked out why you do things? So let's take some basic stuff. Selling cold. We're all told, and it's catalyzed and amplified by the way we're funded, by the way we're measured, that we're all told it's great to generate new revenue, take on new logos, and have a strong forward pipeline. But when we look at the motive behind that, is it so that we can deliver a scenario where our customers feel safer having us on that journey, whether they buy from us or not, but they feel safer with us by their side than they feel without us by their side? And we're okay that sometimes they're not going to buy from us. So today, what I'd like you to think about is maybe we need to look further back than maybe the 1950s and the 1920s, the sort of heyday of advertising in Madison Avenue. They had psychologists in every office. The 20s was this roaring period. We had these boom times, and people really started to think about service. That was really still very important. But I think we need to go further back. We need to think about what made us a successful, hyper-successful species. We've spent our lives consistently trying to compete. We've coexisted at arm's length. In fact, let me share this. We've coexisted at arm's length, and we've collaborated, but we've not really given them our good stuff. And all of these are variations on the us and them. Now, I think there is an opportunity here, and the pandemic, with all the horror and misery that it's caused, actually did us an enormous favor. I believe we're at the beginning of a new renaissance. And in that, we are just about to reach a point where if we make that leap, we move to this place. We move to a place where we actually play to our superpower as a species. We cooperate with one another. We coordinate based on our strengths. And our strengths make up for the weaknesses of others, and their strengths make up for our weaknesses in turn. And instead of trying to muscle it out ourselves, what we do is we co-develop solutions. But we don't just do it with our customers, we do it and our partners, we do it with our customers. We even do it with competitors where it's appropriate, and it's the right thing for the customer. Remember, as a social species, we derive enormous satisfaction from being part of something, feeling like we are contributing. And so what we should be doing is co-elevating these partners, elevating our customers, thinking, turning up, how can I help this person get promoted? Not, how do I take money out of their pocket? And I think this whole competitive coexistence, collaborative piece, actually, that's not really how effective societies work. That's how primitive societies work. But we don't have that excuse, certainly where you and I live. And so we need to understand that actually what we're dealing with is something called wicked problems. Wicked problems are defined by 4 critical characteristics. These may be familiar to you. Whatever you try first won't work. Stakeholders differ. The rules change as you go, and there are no perfect solutions, only imperfect outcomes. That means you've got to try stuff out, rinse and repeat, and hopefully those experiments aren't fatal. People are difficult, and there are lots of them, and increasingly there are more of them in decision-making committees and also in evaluation committees. Again, people forget that because of the way CRM works. We go from the top of the funnel to the end of the funnel because as soon as we register, expected close date, and that's where the focus goes. And then the stuff that you do, it's not perfect. Don't be precious about it. Bring other people in, help the customer develop a better solution. And understand that the problem that we have with sales is it is multidimensional. There are multiple causes, multiple symptoms, multiple stakeholders, multiple solutions can solve all sorts of problems, and it's constantly evolving. But the problem is that if what we do is we try and apply a one-dimensional solution to a four-dimensional problem, you end up tinkering at the edges with an imperfect but functioning solution, and you destabilize it. So stop tinkering. Give your attention on curing the cause and preventing it happening in the first place. That requires very little effort for an enormous amount of leverage. Now, again, one big challenge that I see is we're wasting an opportunity here because the most precarious and the most underserved, undertrained, underdeveloped, and at-risk people in any organization is the middle management layer. And most middle managers, at least in the UK, there are 2.4 million accidental managers. These are managers who fail, who find themselves in a situation where they came in one morning and they were a manager. That was their runway. So with very little investment and little support, but a lot of pressure from above, below, and from all sides, they're doing their best. But I don't think we're asking enough of ourselves of the right questions. Because if we don't open ourselves to the possibility of thinking and competing differently, by collaborating with our customers, really focusing on helping them achieve the intended outcome that they're renting from us, finding ways to make sure that we're still relevant and valuable to them, even when we have nothing to sell. Creating an environment where losing you as a supplier also means losing an ecosystem. Losing you as a supplier also means losing a source of innovation. And so I think we need to reimagine. We need to really start thinking, how can we be clever about this? How can we start selling hot instead of selling cold? How can we get how can we make the pie bigger for everybody? And how do we keep the game going instead of winning or losing? How do we create enough for all of us? Now, I realize I've let my hair grow long, but I've not become a hippie. We need to start thinking about what we measure and how those metrics are actually helping drive our results. Most of the traditional metrics that we focus on are lag indicators. They overcomplicate things and they overburden salespeople and marketers and take them away from what they really need to do. If you've ever done the calculation and you work out what it costs the business to get one single opportunity to a second meeting, it will make you weep. You're probably talking in the region of several hundred dial attempts, probably hundreds of emails, so on. It's an enormous amount of noise. And what we're doing is creating short-term thinking. And we need to operate out of this top right-hand quadrant where we can scale and sell into a hot market through someone who is trusted by both customer and provider. And you get a multiplier effect. I don't know about you, but I'm intrinsically lazy. And what I don't want to do is waste a lot of time. And the evidence is out there. You only have to look at how poor CRM content is. over 80% is worthless. There are persistent problems. There's deal slippage. You've got all this noise. The results aren't really changing. We're seeing record low numbers of salespeople hitting quota. So we've got to think again. Now, if we start not only selling hot, but collaborating with other people who think in the similar fashion, you create a steady, hot pipeline of people who are already known and trusted, introducing to people who are known and trusted. And so these ecosystems are already forming. You're seeing them forming on WhatsApp, on Discord, on Google, on Teams, on Meets. You're seeing them forming. That I heard of one organization of 14 to 17-year-olds that have formed together spontaneously to develop a video game. And they're using modern project management techniques. They're using RACI, they're using Gantt charts, they're using project management software. I think it was Monday or some tool like that. And they're collaborating and they're holding each other accountable spontaneously without any adult intervention. And there are 3 unexploited resources of underexploited: middle management, strategic alliances, and ecosystems. We need to move away from a command and control management style and move to one where managers coach in the moment, on the job, at the point of need, and then reinforce it with practice scenarios, opportunities for people to master those skills, master those moments of communication. And opportunities are lost because managers are solving problems, answering questions. And every time you do, you steal an opportunity to learn. And managers spend way too much time in supervising and doing. Channel managers do. Partners do. We should be spending our time in coaching and designing systems and processes to help take away workload, make people more effective. Don't sacrifice effectiveness for efficiency, and actually leading and creating a win-win-win environment where all parties feel safe: buyer, seller, partner. So my conclusions are, do what we already do, but better. Cooperate, communicate, collaborate, share information, be vulnerable, let people in. Stop fighting natural systems. Don't try and control your partners. Don't try and control your customers. They'll resist. Find a way to empower your people, enable your customers. Find ways to multiply your force and synthesize ideas. Having more eyes on the problem is key. Be clear. Don't try and be ambiguous. Don't hold stuff back. If you doubt or you have a question, ask. And keep your self-orientation low. Focus on their success. Align with them. Profit is a good thing, but you have to apply it well and do it with conscience. Grow sustainably, contribute more, coordinate, create an environment people want to work in, and work on the long game. If you'd like to find out more of how we're doing this, then join Sales Force for Good. And if you're interested in how to build ecosystems, then I run a monthly mastermind group. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Marcus, thank you very much.
I can't hear.
Because I didn't come straight on. I started like that actually when you first finished, because that was kind of where you took me. You really made me think, as you always do. And one of my reflections as I was thinking about it was that I, as a trainer, and it's not something I do now, but as a sales trainer for 10 years, I remember clients ringing me and saying, how do we make more sales? How do we negotiate more effectively? How do we make more calls? How do we motivate our people? How do we make more money? How do we make more profitability? I don't ever remember anybody ringing me and saying, how do we provide more value for our clients? And for me, the for me, the piece that just boom hit me was the was how do you elevate? And I would use a different word. I would use transformation, but yeah, elevate. How do you elevate your client? And I loved what you said about changing, but I realize also that there is going to be a huge reticence from people to move away from command and control to thinking about something else. So the question I'm going to ask you, and it's only one question, but it's quite difficult. So what's the first step, Marcus? If you're sitting out there going, that resonated, what's the first step?
This is really, really, really counterintuitive. The first area of focus must be equipping your middle managers and the people who manage your strategic alliances and partnerships and relationships, and people who go out and are responsible for managing touches with the customer. Those people need to learn how to coach. And most people think coaching requires a safe place, a bit of a kumbaya moment. It doesn't. It requires 3 minutes and 4 questions. And when someone comes to you in your team, and on average, managers get 16 to 20. And when I say that, most managers laugh. 16 to 20 interruptions a day from their team. If only it were that few. Now, if you stop and think, is this a teachable moment? Is this a moment where I could equip them to work this out for themselves and help them to find a way to own that moment, that skill, that moment of communication, deal with that challenge? And out of those 16 to 20, Gavin, how many do you reckon a day might be viable, coachable, teachable moments?
Well, all of them, I suspect, Marcus.
Well, then let's be generous. Let's say a third. There's seven of them. Yeah. Now, that's 7 times 240 working days a year. That's 1,540 something. 20. It's clearly Mr. Alves. I'm so sorry. You're a terrible maths teacher, and I'm an even worse student. But you get the general gist. But that's a lot of learning opportunities wasted. Now, if you can galvanize that middle management layer, and then all the other stuff that you try, training, reinforcement, all of that, miraculously starts to function, because then they get the reinforcement. But managers spend 80% of their time doing and supervising, at least. Now, sadly, they spend next to nothing in coaching. There was a fabulous bit of research that Jonathan Farrington did before he died, which said that 83% of managers were convinced they were coaching, but only 17% of those managers' salespeople believed they were receiving coaching. So somewhere there is a disconnect. And we need to align around the customer. Because if you get your managers all, first of all, coaching, and then all focused on what is it that we have to do in order to be timely, relevant, and valuable to our customers and stay relevant so that they want us along the journey, whether they're buying from us or not. If that was everyone's focus, that would be so different. And you would show up differently. Every touch would be different. Every metric would be focused on that, not share price and valuation.
Thank you, Marcus. That's just brilliant. I really enjoyed that. And it's back to the training theme and the half-life of training and skills that has come up over and over and over again. And for you, it's all about those middle managers who've fallen into the job, and all they do is they focus on behaviors and managing and counting behaviors. And actually what they need is the ability to coach and be upskilled in that area. Marcus, thank you so much.